हेलो एवरीवन, आई होप यू डूइंग फाइन. सब लोग ठीक ठाक. आई होप आपको लाइफ हिस्ट्री मेथड पर जो मेरा लेक्चर था यू लाइक्ड इट और आपको अच्छा लगा होगा. अब आज मैंने सोचा कि आपके साथ कंटेंट एनालिसिस डिस्कस कर लेते हैं. नैन्सी ने एक अच्छी प्रेजेंटेशन बनाई है, मोस्टली सब कुछ कवर किया है. सो आई जस्ट थॉट कि मैं थोड़ा आपको एक्सप्लेन कर दूँ सो दैट इट्स ईजियर फॉर यू टू कॉम्प्रीहेंड. और क्योंकि मैंने आपको बोला है कि इसी यूनिट पे बेस्ड मैं आपको कुछ क्वेश्चंस भी दूंगी एंड बोथ लॉन्ग आंसर्स एंड शॉर्ट आंसर्स जो आप तैयार कर लेना. जैसे भी डिसीजन होगा कि ऑनलाइन होना है, कुछ टेस्ट एग्ज़ाम या जैसे भी वॉट एवर इज़ द डिसीजन, तो अगर वो क्वेश्चंस हमारे पास तैयार होंगे तो दे विल बी ऑफ यूज़. ओके, नाउ दिस कंटेंट एनालिसिस इज़ अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग मेथड. ओके, ये इंटरेस्टिंग मैं क्यों बोल रही हूँ? बिकॉज इट्स बोथ ऑल्दो वी यूज़ इट फॉर क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च मोर, बट इट ऑल्सो हैज़ अ क्वांटिटेटिव एलिमेंट इन इट. बट ये कंटेंट एनालिसिस होता क्या है? सो कंटेंट एनालिसिस, इफ यू सी, इज़ अ मेथड ऑफ सोशल रिसर्च that aims at the analysis of content, qualitative and quantitative, and analysis of what? Of documents, books, newspapers, magazines, and other forms of written material. Now you must be wondering that content analysis is only about written material, so what? So it's not about written material, it's also about the visual. So we use content analysis. We collect data from a set of texts. These texts can be visual, written, they can be newspapers, magazines, speeches, interviews, or film songs, or TV advertisements, or news items. It can be posters. Very interesting study has been done by Patricia Oberoi. She has done research on calendars. So calendar art form, it can be very interesting, a content analysis thing. There are studies which have been conducted on films, that how violence is depicted or reflected in films. So the methodology that's used in this kind of research is content analysis. Basically, in content analysis, it is the interpretation which is very important. So what is there in the content and how a researcher interprets is very important. So based on that, we use it as a qualitative technique or we use it as a quantitative technique. There are some definitions which have been nicely written here. This definition by Kerlinger, Weiner, Belson. You can take up any of these definitions, you can write all of them, and then write a small comprehensive conceptual kind of a paragraph which actually talks about the gist, the summary of the definitions. Now, very important is to give some examples of content analysis, and I can see a very interesting example that Nancy has used from some reference, which is a study of TV serials. And because the reference she must have used is an old one, so it talks about, see, yeah, here it talks about घर एक मंदिर series. And आपको मैं बताऊँ, मैं घर एक मंदिर सीरियल देखा करती थी, और नॉट समथिंग टू डू विद दिस मेथड, बट एक मुझे बात याद आ गई कि घर एक मंदिर वो सीरियल है जिसमें वन ऑफ योर फेवरेट TV stars did his that was his debut serial. राम कपूर का पहला सीरियल घर एक मंदिर था और सोनी टीवी पे ही आता था. इन एनी केस, so coming back to the example, if the research problem is about कंटेंट ऑफ द TV सीरीज़, और आजकल तो आप घर में बैठ के लॉकडाउन के दिनों में बहुत सारे सीरीज़ देख रहे हो. आजकल वेब चैनल्स का ज़माना है, वेब सीरीज़ देख रहे हो, नेटफ्लिक्स है, हॉटस्टार है, Z5 है, एंड गॉड नोज हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम आर देयर. तो यू कैन डिसाइड ऑन लुकिंग एट द कंटेंट ऑफ दी सीरीज़. यू कैन डू अ स्मॉल लिटिल रिसर्च वेयर इन यू टेक अप वन सीरीज़ आपने जो भी देखी है, and then you can look at the content of that what is being depicted, social reality क्या बता रहे हैं, action क्या है, relationships क्या है, what are the social values they are showing, etc. etc. So basically, when we decide on using this method, we also decide on the kind of issues and dimensions that we are going to look at. Similarly, another example can be that we want to do content analysis of what is being reported in a particular newspaper. Now this doesn't mean newspaper means any newspaper. You have to decide, it can be in English or Hindi or any vernacular, any language. You have to follow that newspaper for a certain period of time, which you decide as per your research problem. And then you have to every day, if it's a everyday paper or it's a weekly paper, you have to decide and see that what all is being reported, especially if you have chosen, for example, you've chosen about the car thefts you want to know, or dowry violence you want to see how it's reported, or you want to see what are the political news that is being reported. So how would you do that? Obviously for that you will have to look at the content. So similarly, there are many examples that you can look at. One more example I want to share with you, and I think मैंने कभी क्लास में इसका रेफरेंस ज़रूर दिया होगा. One of my very good scholars has worked on TV advertisements, Richa Verma, and she's done her MPhil and PhD on studying. Of course, her I will not go into the detail of her research, but the research, both her MPhil and PhD, were about the TV advertisements and the print advertisements, and she had used this method very vigorously, content analysis. You can actually Google her work. It must be on Shodh Ganga, or else when we reopen, you can look at her hard copy of her thesis. A very good example of how content analysis can be used in your later researches. When it comes to understanding type of content analysis, you can see here there are two types: conceptual analysis and relational analysis. Many a times certain authors would also give you more than two types, but even if we kind of break them up into much more types, they still revolve around that one content analysis talks more in terms of trying to study and analyze the concepts, and the other one talks not just about concepts but also for the relationships of the concepts that one is studying. After that, what is very important is the whole process of content analysis, that how content analysis actually takes place. I mean, what is the methodology that we follow while we are using content analysis. So there is a procedure, stepwise. So first step, of course, is specifying the problem. So every researcher has to finalize or decide on or zero down to the research problem on what problem are you working on, or while you are taking up the content analysis, जब आप कर रहे हो तो आपकी research problem क्या है तो उसको specify करना है. फिर इसमें एक बहुत important बात है, that is about sampling. That, and you would wonder what is sampling doing here, because see, this is one method where there are no respondents as such. You are just going to look at the data resource, and whatever is your data resource, I mean, be it letters or diaries or newspapers or songs or lyrics or pictures or videotapes or TV content or whatever. Now that is the source, and how much of them, कितने दिन का, एक महीने का, कितनी books हैं. For example, you want to do research on let's say some author you pick up, some bestseller writer, so you can look at 2 of his or her novels, you can look at 2 or 3 of his or her books, and then you can decide on the content, what is written. तो उसने उसमें लिखा क्या है becomes the data for you. and तो देखो इसमें कोई इन्वॉल्व तो नहीं है, रिस्पॉन्डेंट तो इन्वॉल्व नहीं, तो फिर सैम्पलिंग क्या. तो सैम्पलिंग हो गई कि you are going to take up 4 books, you are going to look at at the newspapers for 1 week or 2 months, or you're going to look at 10 songs and their lyrics, or you are going to do a study based on 10 films, और जो मैं TV advertisements की बात कर रही थी कि depending on the your research time that you have with you, depending also on that, and also on the kind of specificities that you have decided for your research problem, आप decide करोगे कितनी advertisements आप लेने वाले हैं या जो भी चीज़ आप करने वाले हैं, तो वो एक sampling number हो जाता है. Then third thing is choosing units for analysis. That आप word आपका unit of analysis है कि आप words देखने वाले हो. जैसे for example आप कोई न्यूज़ रिपोर्टिंग का कंटेंट एनालिसिस करना चाहते हैं एंड यू डिसाइड ऑन द वर्ड एंड यू डिसाइड फॉर द वर्ड इन से वायलेंस, dowry, molestation, killing, murder, fire, these kinds of words. And also, it is not necessarily that unit is the word. Unit of analysis can be a sentence, a phrase, a picture, a person, etc. And then you have category construction. Now, category construction is wherein you construct the category, and I'll come to that. So, specifying the problem I've already discussed, and herein we decide on the set of questions that we address. What is it that would decide our problem? Then the next sampling, as I explained. For example, let's see what Nancy's written. Sampling here refers to sampling of newspapers, magazines, and books, serials, songs, novels, etc. Sampling of books means sampling of old and new books and popular magazines known for their analytical news. And she's taken up example of caste violence in Bihar, and she says, so for this, what would be the sample? Sample can be magazines like India Today, The Week, Outlook, Frontline, Economic and Political Weekly. And among books could be sampling old books published in 50s, 60s, 70s, early 80s, or maybe the new books, etc. So sampling material will enable the researcher to give some elegant theoretical material or statements. So I think she's able to kind of convey that yes, this is what the sampling would require us to do. Then units, as I explained here also, if you see, she's writing what exactly ought to be. Yeah, ought to be the unit for analysis. Should unit of analysis be words, say violence, aggression, etc.? Sentences, paragraphs, chapters, whole books, magazines, etc. So researchers have to set up categories for calculating or deciding on the themes, persons, behavior, and so on. And she quotes Gardner, who has given us following units of analysis, and Gardner had written this in 1975. He says the single word can be a unit, the theme can be a unit of the subject, like values pay, violence pay. Character can be one of the units. Then the sentence or the paragraph can be unit of analysis, and then item can also be. So you do it on a film, you do the articles, or you do the entire book, as I just explained to you. मैंने जो example दिया आपको, that can be your unit. And finally the category construction, which I said I will explain. And see, if I read it here, this refers to classifying the content of the materials being investigated. So the constructed categories must reflect the major theoretical concepts on which the study is based. So for example, in the illustration of caste violence, some useful categories could be status of caste, occupational aspirations, and a hierarchy of caste, or what is the caste experience, how a caste plays, what are the occupations castes are involved in, and so on and so forth. I mean, all these things can be part of the category construction. Now, as we've been talking about that, different sources of data needs to be used in content analysis. What can be the sources of data? So some of them can be, and she's listed it here, printed material, which can be newspaper, books and magazines, documents, film material, records, etc. So all of them can be different sources, and then each one of them are explained. I want to share with you one very important because I'm a philatelist, and philately is hobby of collecting stamps. Stamps also have content. Of course, in the digital revolution, आजकल हम postal stamps को बिल्कुल भूल गए हैं. But if you take out time and if you see the different postal stamps, you'll find there is a background, there is history to each one of these postal stamps, and what picture the postal stamp carries, because postal stamp always has a context, always is located in time and history, and it has lot of meaning. So you actually can do a content analysis through the postal stamps as well. This would be interesting. Whenever we find some more time, we'll talk more on that. Like all other concepts, content analysis may be as a method, it has certain advantages and strengths, and it has certain weaknesses. See, in strengths, I can say it's something that keeps you away from the respondents. So that whole going after the people and asking them for time and taking appointments, etc., is all ruled out here. You only need to have access to the data sources and then sit and do the analysis. So in a sense, an inexpensive method. It's a readily understood, and it's used both qualitative and quantitative. It's a very interesting method in all. So in all, at least it's my favorite method. I really like doing content analysis, and I've done a small little research project on TV serials and advertisements long back. I mean, when I had just initially joined the university. So one of my initial projects was about that. Yes, there are disadvantages. See, this is time consuming because you have to sit at length and do a lot of analysis, do a lot of reading, a lot of watching again and again. You have to replay stuff, you have to reread, you have to relook, etc. Also, defining validity is very difficult, that you're using content analysis, whether it's a valid method for a particular research, that also is very difficult. Then you also need to see that you start off with a research problem. You say, yes, I will get the documents, because remember, there are historical documents, records, correspondences, letters that you would need in your research sometimes, if your research problem demands that. And many a times it happens, you start off your research and then the documents are not available. So that also becomes a drawback with this method. And finally, you can write a nice conclusion in one paragraph, wherein you can talk about how it's a flexible method, how it's a very useful method, how it gives us interesting generalizations and interpretations, especially in qualitative research. And if you look at this conclusion which Nancy's written, I like the last lines. The approach differs, both an inductive qualitative approach for researchers who wish to prove an existing theory, yet it is flexible enough to be used by an investigator who wishes to establish a new theory grounded in data. So meaning that content analysis is that richer method that actually can help can help the researchers to come up with new theories as well. So see, this has been written by Nancy Sharma, and we had already shared this presentation. So I think we can clap for Nancy. Well done. And I think you have understood the content analysis. Very soon I'll share reliability and validity with you, and also we are left with one topic, very important, scaling. Although when we meet, or whenever this happens, I will also in person explain scaling to you, but I'll definitely share with you some notes on scaling and explain them through my voice. So do watch this video and subscribe to this channel, my channel, and I will keep updating you with the lectures. So stay safe, stay calm, relax, enjoy this break that you're getting in life. I think even my parents never got so much of time in life the way we are getting, although situation is very tough, but this too shall pass, and we'll see through this together. Don't worry. Be with each other, call each other. These days digitally we are so connected. इतना आसान है एक दूसरे को हंसाना, खुश करना, encourage करना, good words use करना, positive रहना, है ना. हमारे पास digital platforms हैं, social media है. So remain connected, be happy, help your parents, and I will upload the next lecture soon. Do let me know, give me your feedback, comments दे दो, देखो कैसा लगा. Okay, bye, and have a nice time at home with your parents.